Once again, this lesson we're going to be covering is just a summary of 3-7 parallel lines and perpendicular lines using slopes. What we're focusing on the most is using the slope-intercept form. We're not going to be learning about graphic. I'm just going to go to focus on mostly on the real lesson, which is determining whether the slopes are parallel using the slopes that are given. Okay. Once again, M just means slope in this formula, right? On the right side is like the whole description of the formula. M means that it is talking about the slope, and B represents the where the slope intercepts the line in the y-axis. Okay, we're gonna do a summary on that in a bit. And here, the first example we're gonna be talking about is parallel lines. What are parallel lines? Parallel lines are slopes that are gonna be the same. That's how we determine if they are parallel. Is, for example, is the first here. Let me y equals 2/3x plus 2. Again, our slope we're talking about is 2/3. I'm going to highlight that for you. And here, the second slope, here we're going to talk about is y equals, once again, 2/3. Hold on. X minus 4, right? I can use anything, but mostly, if you're looking at a lot of things, there's only two things you should be looking at is the slopes here is 2/3 and 2/3. Knowing that they are the same, you can determine that if the slopes are the same, then we can say that they are parallel slopes or parallel lines. Okay, just to add more information, don't forget that if you don't have a value here, you can just put a plus sign. If they're both positive, then you can also say that they are, if they're the same slope and they're both positive or both negative, right, then they are going to be parallel. Example here in the bottom is you have question number 1, which is slope number 1, you're given 4/1x. We're not looking at plus 5, we're only focusing on 4/1. The second slope we're going to be focusing on, once again, I'm highlighting it for you so it's easier. This is an example of parallel lines or parallel slope because if you look at the first slope is 4/1 and the second slope is also 4/1. So if they're the same slope, then you can tell that they are parallel. Okay. How to translate this actually properly is y equals 4x. Why I put over 1 is because a lot of students want to convert it to a slope. So you can always divide 4 with a value of 1 and it will remain the same value, right? Because 4 divided by 1 is still 4, right? So I just put 4/1 just because a lot of students want to put in that format. The second one is, oops, sorry. The second example here we're talking about is perpendicular slopes. What are perpendicular slopes? Is slopes that are has opposite integers and reciprocals. What does reciprocal mean? Reciprocal means just they flipped to a numerator to a denominator, and I'll just show an example of it. Here, this is an example for, oops. This is an example for perpendicular lines. Perpendicular lines is saying that they're -2/3. Here are the opposite integers. One's a negative here, and the other one is, the second slope is a positive. So it covers the first part, which is, are they opposite integers? Yes, right? One's a negative in the first slope, and one's a positive in the other slope. And the second part you have to look for is, are they reciprocals? Reciprocal means you flip them around, and they are, that's what the reciprocal means, right? So it's, if this is 3/2, what happens when you flip them around is going to be 2/3. This is an example for, once again, perpendicular. There's no yeah, this is just an example for perpendicular lines. Okay. How are they perpendicular again? Once again, they have to be opposite integers and reciprocals. Here, one's a negative, one's positive. The other one is 3/2. When you flip that over, it's going to be 2/3. So it follows the requirements or conditions for it to be perpendicular. Okay. Moving on to the next one here. Hold on. So here, this is an example for neither here. And why is it neither? Is because, once again, if it doesn't follow the conditions for both parallel lines and both perpendicular lines, then it is neither of them. They are just 5, which is far away from it. Okay. So going on to the next example, you're going to be participating on. If you understand it, let's see if you could participate in this to master, right? You have to do is just select A, B, or C. What do you think is the pattern here that we're looking at? Is it parallel? Is it perpendicular? Is it neither? Once again, I'll just highlight what you're supposed to look at. A lot of students, they like try to look at the whole thing, but all you need to look at is the slope that I'm highlighting right now. Okay. What do you think? No, right, for sure. This response here shows that majority of students are saying it's parallel. The answer is true. That is, all of them are parallel. Both slopes are parallel. Why? Because 2 over 3 is the same slope as 2 over 3. Okay, positive 2 over 3 and positive 2 over 3 are the same, so they are parallel. Okay. So next one here is, oops, not that one. This one here, what do you think it is going to be as we proceed? Okay. So once again, this is not parallel because one's positive and one's a negative. Opposite integers does not mean they have the same value, right? So number one, parallel is not the answer. Okay. And here, are they perpendicular? Are they opposite integers? Yes, they are. One's positive, one's negative. But are they reciprocals of each other, right? 2 over 1, I'll just expand on it. And 2 over 1, are they reciprocals? And they are not reciprocal, right? Because the reciprocal of 2 over 1 is 1 over 2. This is the same thing. It's not 1 over 2, so it's not perpendicular, right? So the answer is neither. Good job. On practicing that, good job. Going on to the next one here. Oopsie. There you go. What is the next one here, you think? So here's perpendicular. Why is it perpendicular? Because you have a positive, what's a negative, and then here they are reciprocals of each other because 3 over 1's reciprocal is 1 over 3. Usually how it looks like is just like this. So a lot of students might get confused on if they're reciprocals or not. Don't forget, you can always divide the whole number with a number 1 because any number divided by 1 is the same value. Okay. So going on to the next one here. Let's see. I'm just going around this. Okay. Going on to this next one here. Are they parallel, perpendicular, or neither? A lot of people answered 3. The answer is neither. That is correct. Why is it neither? Because here you can tell that they're not even parallel. They're not parallel at all. That would be not the best choice. Why? Because once again, parallel lines is slopes are the same. Negative 4 over 1 is not the same as negative 1 over 4. They have the same integers, but they're not the same pattern. Not even pattern, right? They're very different. Next one is perpendicular lines is slopes are opposite integers and reciprocals. Here you have one negative. Are they opposite integers? You have to double check. If you have one negative and one positive, the other one's not they're not opposite integers, right? They're the same. So this gives you a clue that they are not perpendicular as well. Okay. So they might be reciprocals, which is 4 over 1, which could be mistaken, but they have to follow also the conditions of are they opposite integers? This is a negative 4, this is a negative 4 over 1, and this is a negative 1 over 4, which is incorrect, right? They're not opposite integers, so they cannot be perpendicular. So this one answer is neither. Going on to the next one. Did we do this one yet? I think we did, right? Hold on. Yeah. Going on to this next one. What do you think the answer for this one is? right now. They are parallel because, once again, the slopes are the same, -3, and this is also a -3. Um, Going on to the next one. Let's see. Oh, I'm gonna skip that one. Oh, wait. Hold on, sorry. Okay, this next one here. What do you think the answer is gonna be? Is it parallel, perpendicular, or neither? The answer here for this one is perpendicular. You can tell that they're perpendicular because and they're both opposite integers, because one's a negative and one is a positive, and also they are a reciprocal of each other, right? This is -6/1. Don't forget, it's some in the book they're not gonna translate it as -6/1 because it's not necessary. It's more proper to put it -6, but always acknowledge that you can always divide out a whole number with the value of 1 to determine that its slope or its run. So it's -6 divided by 1 is still going to be -6, right? So I'm just going to leave it as -6/1 here, and the reciprocal of 6/1 is 1/6. Okay, so the answer for this one is perpendicular, and good job on that. Going on to the next one here. Okay, once again, if you don't see a number here, you can just put +0, right? If you don't feel comfortable with where's the number, right? You can just put a +0, but you don't have to because it's not necessary. What do you think the answer for this one is? It's not parallel. Reason why, once again, is one's positive and one's a negative. So that's a good thing. You start noticing that, right? Here, it might look like they have the same number, but once again, integers plays a big difference. Here, they are not perpendicular. Why they're not perpendicular? Because although they have opposite integers, they are not reciprocals of each other, right? You have to have both to be perpendicular. Here, the reciprocal for 1/2 is 2/1, or just 2, right? So here, they're not reciprocals. They are neither. The answer is neither. Okay. Well then, going on to the next one here. So about that. I don't know. About that. Okay. Going on to the next one here is, what is the answer you think is going to be? Is it parallel? Is it perpendicular? Or is it neither? A lot of answer perpendicular. Are you sure? I don't know. Maybe. The answer for this one is perpendicular. So I just wanted to make you question yourself. Answer is perpendicular. Why is it perpendicular? Because here, don't forget, you can always put a +5, and then you can always divide 5 by 1. Okay. So here, for sure, they're not parallel. Good job on everyone not noticing that. Here it's negative, and once a positive, automatically that's a signature sign that it's not parallel. But are they perpendicular? Let's double check, right? Are they opposite integers? Yes, one's negative, one's positive. And are they reciprocals? Answer is, once again, yes. 1/5. Just because it doesn't show 5/1 doesn't mean that you can't put divided by 1, right? So divided by 1. And yes, they are reciprocals. So the answer is perpendicular slopes. Okay?